Well, glad I'm done with that. Man, I'm so sick of black yarn right now. I'm really glad that that's over. Whatever I make next, it won't be black. What should I make next? Charmander's probably getting pretty lonely up there. I'll make him a friend. Now, do I have the right yarn? 1, 2, yep. Now I just need my needles and... Oh yeah, my needles are only really visible in the third dimension. Well, I can do that. Okay, yep. Yeah, I usually use size 7s, as you saw. So, let's see. I'm going to start with the body, so that means that this green and this green I'm not going to use. Not yet, anyway. I'm using turquoise? Okay. So, yeah. Just to look at Bulbasaur. Yeah, he's a... I don't know how well you can see this, but it's a pretty basic shape. I'm not sure how well I'm going to capture that nose. But yeah, I'm going to start... Okay, when it's a full-on above view, you can barely see the nose. But yeah, I'll be starting from the top. I'll be starting from his nose and working backward. Making the head and body first. Gotta remember to keep myself at a very specific angle.
And yeah, this is just gonna be the bluish shade, because, well, I'll get to that in a minute.
Anyhow, the reason I've got double-pointed needles as well is because I didn't know what I was going to be using. I will be using them, but not yet.
Sorry about the noise. Yeah, that helps. Not quite as easy. Let's see, do I have any more? Will 3 work? 3 should work.
Yep. And as always, I will start with the pearl row. Man, this is noisy. I gotta knit a desk cover just on principle of needles tapping the desk. Oh, this is only my first video like this, so learning experience. Time to start increasing for the nose. So yeah, this guy's not going to be very big. It's only going to be about as big as the Charmander plush that you saw on that shelf. And now I'm going to be working a row. Okay, I'm going to sit back from my desk a little bit. Yeah, you're going to be kind of staring at my wall, but that's the only way. I hope you're actually getting this in frame. This is, like I said, first time, learning experience. Stay over there, Skane.
Okay. Need to remember. Head comes up as well as back. So whenever I got the head to look like it's coming top of the head like that, I'll check again. Oop. Yeah.
So yeah, about Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is, out of the Kanto starters, he's, okay, I'll admit, I'm a little biased with the Kanto starters. I usually pick Charmander when I'm playing a Kanto-based game. And this is looking a little bit too much like a triangle. Better increase on this row too. I don't usually do that, but when I need a sharper angle, I will. It's not that I dislike Bulbasaur, because I don't. If I ever made a top 10 list of Pokemon that I absolutely hate the design of, Bulbasaur would not make that list. Because he's fine. Because I technically am, one could say that I'm a G1er, but I didn't really play Pokemon that much growing up. My parents did not want me to have Pokemon. So, all I could do was, when I would go to the dentist, there was a Game Boy Color, I think, locked to, in a box. It could still be played, but it was locked to a box that was, locked in a box that was chained to a desk so that it couldn't be stolen. And sometimes that Game Boy had a copy of Pokemon Yellow in it, and I would play it, but I could never get very far in it because I could only be in there while I was waiting for my appointment, and then I had to leave, and there goes all the progress. I don't remember how far I ever got in that. And if you want to look at the Charmander plushie that I made, I will be getting to that eventually. I'm probably not going to show it off until I'm working on the Squirtle, because the entire reason I wanted to make the plushies was because I found a video once, actually I don't remember who found it, me or my sis, still I did get to watch it, of babies choosing their first Kanto starter. Yeah, basically 10 babies were given the choice to pick one of 3 little plushies that looked like Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. And I thought that was so cute, I decided, what the hey, let's make plushies so that if I ever have kids, or if some Pokemon fan wants to see what their kid would pick, I can have plushies to, I can make plushies for their kid to choose between. And did I? Yes, I did. I forgot to increase. Boink. Yeah, makes sense I forgot to do that. Increasing on the pearl row is not, it's not natural for me. I'm more likely to increase on the nip row. Increasing on the pearl row is something that I almost never do. Does that look good? Yeah, okay. Try that again. This time, remember the increase. See, I'm not at the width that I want yet. And now the stitches are being a pain because I backed up. It's probably going to make it look a little bit weird on the other side, but what are you going to do? And yeah, I should mention, I do already know what my gauge is for knitting. I hope you're catching this.
Yeah, it would have been easier for me to keep track of where I am in frame if I could have been in my first pose, which was near the apples on the desk. But my knitting needles making so much noise, I need to have something covering the desk so I'm not pointing my knitting needles on them. Probably will have less trouble with the double pointed. There's a thought.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Retire the single pointed needles for now. and switch to the double-pointed needles. Because yeah, that's the other thing. It's probably not going to get so wide that I have to trade for a longer needle. Because yeah, the width of the needle is probably about as wide as I would want the Bulbasaur to get. And yeah, Bulbasaur's face is starting to curve up into my line of vision. But that's the risk of using this particular stitch. There, and there. Now I'm on the double-pointed needle, and I can retire the single-point needle. And I'm not going to be using the single points again until I've gotten a proper covering for my desk whenever I'm knitting. Okay, forget that happened. That's why I have multiple double-pointed needles. It wasn't that funny. I'm sorry. Just went whee! Because I haven't really played a whole ton of Pokemon, I'm not exactly familiar with Bulbasaur's gameplay. How well it can be used. In my big hidden ability hunt, I do have a Bulbasaur with chlorophyll, that hidden ability. That was actually kind of funny. When I was working on completing my Alpha Sapphire Pokedex, actually I'm still working on that. That's what this is. That's my Alpha Sapphire game. I had GTS'd for a Bulbasaur, and so I got it, and I raised it up to Venusaur. And then I decided I was going to start my hidden ability hunt, because yeah, I started the hidden ability hunt after I started my quest to complete the Pokedex. I looked at that Venusaur and I suddenly realized it has chlorophyll. Oh my god. And let's see. Yep, this actually looks like a decent width. Maybe I could do one more, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's as wide as it really has to be. Now let's see. How far back does the head go? Man, there's no... From the top, Bulbasaur has no neck. He kind of has a neck from the side, but from top, that neck is non-existent. Sorry if my hand's in the way. So I'm going to work straight a few rows. This is going to be a little awkward for keeping track of. You know what, Bulbasaur, help me out. I need to keep track of how many rows straight I'm doing. Because yeah, if this is going to go in my pattern book, I need to keep track of how many rows I'm doing. This is going to wind up being the top of his head, leading down to his back. I haven't decided if I'm going to carry it any further. I might. Because I like working in as close to one piece as possible. Just because. And what is very likely that I will do is just keep working around the back and then down across his, basically across his butt, and then work underneath the stomach until I make the lower jaw. That will still leave the sides to be done, but if I can do that, that'd be fine. Also, the ears will have to be separate pieces. Just putting that out there. And you know what? My knitting this straight a few rows is gonna be kind of boring, so I'll pause the video here and get back to you when get back to at least briefly for when I'm starting the very slight neck decrease. Because, yeah, Bulbasaur, he does not... You notice, you look at his head, you look at him straight on, you cannot see his body behind. You cannot see his body on either side from behind his head. You can see his tummy, but that's it. So, yeah, that will... With that, yeah, like I said, I'll get back to you once I've gotten to the point where I can start decreasing for the neck. Okay, I've gotten to about... I did 10 rows. Oh, and to anyone who wanted to follow along knitting. I cast on 3, purled 1 row, increased, purled, and then did straight increase all the way up until 21, and then knit 10 rows in stocking stitch. Yeah, and yes, I swapped back to the single point because I found a covering for my desk. It's not a very good covering, but it's a covering. And do not ask what it is because I am not going to tell you. Actually, you can probably guess. Anyway, like I said, this is what it looks like. And now I'm going to start a bit of a decrease, not much of one, because because from above, Bulbasaur doesn't really have a neck. But I will decrease a little bit for a bit of distinction. It's just going to be 1 decrease at the beginning, 1 decrease at the end. And yeah. So yeah, this is probably going to wind up being a piece where I knit from the nose all the way to the underside of the jaw. And yeah, I will be putting down editing cuts just because I don't want to bore people with my just knitting something straight. If something like a increase or a decrease happens, or some other funky stitch, you're supposed to stay on the needle. Come on. Down, around, there. Stay. You stay too. Come on. Technical difficulties. First time knitting in front of a camera. Bear with me. Okay. So that was a drop from 21 to 19. And I'm losing my cover again. It's not really on the desk very well. What are you gonna do? Come on. There are pros and cons to using the different needles. Well, when all other things are equal, like if you're working something flat. Okay. That's 19. I think I'll do one more decrease just to be safe. And what I usually like doing when I'm increasing or decreasing is I work my increase or decrease and then I work another row to basically settle the new number of stitches. When I have to pound out increase after increase or decrease after decrease, I don't really get the chance to do that, and then it's a little harder to judge how many stitches I have. Which is why I was silent for so long after I hit 21. I was trying to decide if that was how many stitches I really needed, when I hadn't been able to settle the stitches. And yeah, I will show the stitch settle rows, just because. But yeah, if I'm going to just be doing knit, purl over and over, that would just be boring. Actually, for all I know, this is boring, but I enjoy it. Okay, and verdict. Yeah, that's probably enough. And for the record, odds are I'm not going to show the knitting until I have gone from the decrease point, which I'm guessing I managed to get to about here in my little decrease. My decrease probably took down to about here, until I've reached maybe here. Yes, I am going to be taking it around. You won't necessarily see it, because like I said, it's just going to be straight knit all the way around. And yeah, I'm not going to bother showing that. So I'm just going to keep knitting straight, and you'll see me when I've reached the point where I'm going to be increasing to head back to the chin. Alright, 50 rows later, I'm not kidding. This is what I've got, and it does indeed loop around. I just need to figure out how I'm going to work the chest. Let's see. Looks like his chest kind of widens out to the width of his jaw. Too bad I can't just do a bottom view. So I guess I'm going to do that. I'll increase.
Increase one. But yeah, I'm not going to do just one row. I'm not going to do just a single row to 7 stitches. I'm going to do more than that because I want to go a little bit further before starting the job. Sorry, I'm probably staring at the belly or something. Let's see. Was you right? I hope you were. I'm probably going to do also dance. Knit 2, 3. Knit 2, 3, knit 2, 3. Because why not?
And yeah, when increasing, it's better to put when you're increasing at the end of a row, it's better to put the increase on the second to last stitch, because that keeps a smoother edge. And yeah, if someone decided they wanted to make a shiny for Bulbasaur, all they really would have to do is swap out this color for a shade of green, I think. I think that was Bulbasaur shiny. And maybe darken the other greens a bit more. Part of it is gonna involve where the jaw actually starts. So, you'll have to bear with me for a second because I'll be figuring out how the whole thing's gonna line up, but that means I'm also gonna be kind of holding it in front of my face instead of in front of the camera. Sorry if I'm not getting any angles that are useful for you guys. yeah, one more row and then I can and then I can start the jaw. Did I want to increase on that row? Probably. I'm not going to bother backing up. I'll just increase on the next row. And this is the last increase that's going to be done for this. Hey! Stop that. Sorry. It's going to be the last increase worked for this particular piece. Everything else done to it is going to be a decrease. And I have considered experimenting with different stitches for making Pokemon, making plushies. But for this specific one, there's going to be a lot of embroidering, and that's actually why I'm not going to be knitting anything with the darker green. Because rather than have to make a ton of patterns for the spots, I'm just going to be embroidering them on. Okay. I'm going to try 5 rows. Just 5 rows to make sure that I'm relatively close to where I want to be, and then I'm going to start decreasing. Lining them up with the decrease of the jaw. And actually, I'm not going to be attaching the entire, when I sew this piece together, I'm not going to be attaching the entire jaw to the entire top of the head, because the result would be too flat. Or I think it might be too flat. I'll have to look at it. Sorry, I keep wanting to hold it in front of my face. And that means you can't see it. 1 row down. Well, 1 row left. Ah. Okay. Time for decreases. Ah, and I nearly forgot to do increases. Decreases, I mean. There, back up to there. Good. Okay. Yet, decreasing and increasing immediately after each other, it does not come naturally to me. Like I said on the increase row, when I was working the top half of Bulbasaur's face, I'm used to settling the stitches, and I'm not doing that for some of these parts because I need a sharper angle. This is my first video ever where I've been doing something like this. But yeah, in case I'm out of frame, I am choosing to decrease at the beginning and end of the row, every single row, to get the same angle in the chin that I did on the top jaw. I know I said I'm not likely to sew together the top of the face and the bottom of the face because that'll make the head too flat, but I'm gonna match it up like this anyway, just because. Just because I'm a perfectionist. Funny fact, when I threw those skeins of yarn over my shoulder, one of them actually, the first one actually landed right behind my back, between me and the chair. That was kind of funny. It's not like I was aiming, after all. Now I am going to bind off the stitches. And come on. Boom. Why did you decide to do this today? The yarn. And the next time you see this weird shaped thing, it'll be sewn together. I'm just not going to sew it up on camera. So. Okay. Here's the Bulbasaur body. Head and body kind of stitched together. Now I just need to actually remember to boot up my 3DS so that I can show the picture that I'm working on. See, the next thing I'm going to be making is going to be the sides so that I can start shoving it into position. Bulbasaur's side appears to be about, let's see.
Just barely.
Yeah, I think I could safely call that half the size of Bulbasaur's back. So I need to take my string. Although it's probably going to wind up being a lot of boring, so thunk. Get up there. I'll show you the cast on and a couple of rows, but then I'm going to stop the recording and not pick up again until later.
And let's see. Since I had made the back, how many stitches across? Which way are the stitches going? Okay.
Since the back is 1, 2, 3, 17 stitches, that means I need to cast on 8 or 9 stitches. I'll see how 8 looks, and if I think it's just a tiny bit too short, I'll make it 9.
Yeah, I'm just dancing here.
Okay, where am I? Yep, that's 8. And on a roll, just a little bit. Oh, whatever. And yeah, 8 should do it. And I don't know why I choose to do this particularly, but I often, when I'm planning on working in stocking stitch, I always work a purl row right after the cast on. This is largely because I like treating the cast on row as my first knit row of the project. I'm not sure why I do that. I'm not sure where I picked that up. Actually, I really should test it again, now that I've done this. That's confirmation, because if it's too short, well, then it's confirmation to myself. Yeah, I'd better make it one more just to be safe. But anyway, you've heard the gist. I'll be making it in stocking stitch, and I'll be working from 9 stitches. So I'm gonna see you guys in a couple minutes. Okay, 18 rows later, and this is where I'm at. Now, the plan I've got is this will line up with the segments that I had 17 stitches for. Which means the next change will be at where chest morphs upward into head. I'm not sure how much sense that made, but yeah, that's the next angle. So I'm going to be shifting all of the stitches up at a pretty sharp angle. That's going to be a 3-fer. And yeah. Okay. So that means I gotta take the stitches up. Alright, since I'm basically making the left side first, I'm not overly fond of doing a 3-fer increase, but that's what this pattern kind of requires. And work 3 together. There. Now this I'm going to do a settle row, because otherwise I just can't see how to get back here, you. I just can't see how the distribution goes, because the stitches are a bit too far apart in the case of that decrease, and a bit too clustered together and on the side of the increase. So yeah, that's what that's gonna look like. I think I only need to do that one more time.
Just like before, run down to the final 3 stitches, and then knit them together. Yeah, I really hope this is on frame. Flip around, settle the stitches. Sorry about not necessarily being frame, keep wanting to hold it up right in front of my face.
And that's what it looks like. So let's see. What I'm probably going to do is work a couple of rows straight and then start the decrease. And I'll get back to you on the decrease. Okay. 6 rows later, and yeah, this is the technique I decided to use. Basically, my double pointed needles are serving as pins, marking transitions, so that I could see what it would look like closer to its final form. And yeah, this is going to be leading up to the jaw, and it's time I started decreasing. Now, the jaw in and of itself is fine. All the decreases are going to happen up here. So, yeah. I will only be decreasing on one side. What's the rate? I'm not sure yet. Actually, since the decreases are going to be happening at the top, I need to work 2 more rows into this and then start decreasing. So yeah, I'll work those 2 rows while I'm figuring out what I'm doing, and I'll get back to you probably partway through the decreases. Okay. Yeah, this is what I'm ultimately doing. I am knitting 3 together and then making a settle row. Here, I'll show you. It's getting pretty close to the end of the nose. So I'm probably not going to do a settle row after this one. I'll see how it looks after making this row. Yeah, by the time it's down to 3 stitches again, there's almost no point. So line up, line her up, and yeah, there's no point in doing a saddle row. I'll just flip around and do basically just purl the last 3 stitches together and call that my bind off. Take away my pins. And yeah, this is what the side looks like. In order to make the other side, you just take the instructions. You would take the directions for the left side and flip it so that it's the same thing but in reverse. So the increases would be on the end of your row instead of the beginning, and the decreases would be on the beginning. And the increase and the decreases would be on the other side when you're actually making the head. So yeah, I'm not going to show making the other side because it's not important. And then next time you see it, it will be probably sewn together. Although, yeah, it occurs to me that I kind of need some polyfill for this thing. Yeah, I'm going to have to run over to that green basket that you saw. Yeah, that's my miscellaneous basket. And get some. So, yeah, you will see me in a little bit. Okay. I'm not sure what to make of this. You can see what it's supposed to be, though, right? It just looks a little bit weird. Well, hopefully it'll start looking more like a Bulbasaur as I keep going. Next, I'll be making the legs. I'm going to use your time making the legs, so I'm using double-pointed needles. So anyway, the idea that I'm working from is I'm basically just going to be making the bottom of the foot and then growing the leg from there, because you notice Bulbasaur basically has little flat, little cylinder feet. Yeah, he doesn't really have feet. He's got little cylinder legs and toenails. So that's all I'm really going to do. Well, calling them toenails is a bit of a stretch. They're claws, but... In the meantime, I'll be casting on 4 stitches. That's the center. And then I'm going to divide them up.
Okay.
And this is going to be another case where I'm increasing every single row because I want to keep it consistent with the... I want to make sure it stays flat is the thing. Which means every row. And I will be periodically redistributing the stitches so that it stays able to be flat. Because otherwise it's just going to be stuck folded in half, which won't work. Basically, I'm only going to be increasing it by multiples of 4. Just to keep things moving smoothly. So like this time I had increased every single stitch, turning 4 into 8. Next row I'm only going to be increasing 1 and 2. So that would turn it into 12. And etc. I'll get back to you once I've reached my desired soul, I guess. Okay. So I did as I said. I increased once every single row 4 times. It looks kind of skewed right now because of the way it's distributed on the needles. And right now I've got 28 stitches. I've been comparing, and that's about the size it needs to be. So now I'm just going to be working straight around and around, just knitting, until I reach about the length it's supposed to be. That looks, with the scale I'm using, maybe about an inch. It'll be flat for another inch. Once I get to that point, I will show you. But yeah, this is just me working around in a circle. I'm not going to bother showing that part. I'm just going to tell you. I'll be playing Ring Around the Rosie until I reach that point. See you in a minute. Okay, this is 6 rows later. 6 rows. And yeah, okay, normally looking at Bulbasaur from the side, it doesn't look like he has a shoulder or really a hip. But I like to do that, so I am going to be binding off half of my stitches and choosing instead to only knit half of them. So since I've got 28, I need to bind off 14 and leave myself with only 14. Ultimately, I could use one of my single point needles, but I'll trade to that later. I can actually use my increases as my way of keeping track of where I'm at in my binding off stitches. Okay, there, and I just need to bind off one more, and then I can work straight. There. And from there, I'll work a few rows and check back with you on the bind off. Well, I'm gonna need to decrease a few right here. To get it to the correct width. Come on. Because otherwise it's just too bulky. No. I think I'm gonna go with one more set of decrease. See, that's a drop to 6. Is 6 good enough? Oh. Down. And yeah, that'll probably do it. But you'll see the end result when I sew this on, which I'm also not going to show right now, because it doesn't really matter exactly how it goes on. There. There. Now I just need to make 3 more and attach them to the Bulbasaur. Okay. Bulbasaur now has his legs on. I admit they are maybe a little bit chunky. So for the official pattern in the book, it's going to be 24 stitches, not 28, and the rest of the pattern will be adjusted accordingly. Just to make sure that they're a little bit smaller, because this is... I mean, unless everyone thinks that they look fine. But yeah, final step. Final step in this color is going to be the ears. Stand so that I can be looking at this picture. And I'll be using my trusty double-pointed needles again. Now that I've given it one row, time to start the increase. Okay, gotta be careful doing this way, but let's see. Boink and boink. There. Now I'm in the more comfortable 3-needle phase. Honestly, I didn't have to do it like that. I could have just transferred the stitches on my saddle row. Sorry about that. Oh, and about Bulbasaur's legs. While I do recommend using polyfill for stuffing stuffed animals most of the time, that, well, 90% of the time, that's not what I actually used for Bulbasaur's legs. What I used was basically those little cotton balls that you pull out of vitamin jars. If you've seen one of my early videos, the one where I was making Marshadow, I had used cotton balls in his legs, and he could stand on his own for a few seconds. Okay, time to increase again. Yeah, I like using the settle rows with circular projects, because if I'm using double pointed needles, come on, then the settle row can be used to redistribute the stitches across the needles to keep everything from getting too cluttered. You might have noticed while I was working on the Bulbasaur, assuming that I'd left it in, I'll have to check. The stitches were getting very cluttered, especially on the first needle. By the time I'd hit the desired number of stitches. But with an arrangement like this, I can just, while I'm settling the stitches, okay, this stitch I would rather have it be on needle number 2, so I just slip it over there, flip around, switch down, grab it off, and then knit it like normal. This is a nice project overall, actually, because it has multiple colors and none of the pieces are particularly big. Stitches have settled, not quite big enough yet. And that's basically how this is going to work. I'm just going to keep increasing and settling until I've reached the desired size, and then I'm going to bind off the stitches. Okay, let's see. No? Maybe? Oops. I think I'll go one more increase. That looks That looks pretty good to me. I'll go with that. Bind off time. I'm not going to bother showing off the other ear because it's the same instructions as the first ear. And that's it. I'll be cutting the yarn and making the second ear in just a little bit. Final check. Yeah. So, next time you see this, both of the little ears will be done and on. Okay. Bulbasaur's got his little ears on. He looks okay. And at this point, I am done with this color. Now, I'm going to be using this color. The Red Heart Soft in Guacamole. It was a shade that worked. Now, I'm going to figure out how to unwind this thing and get back to you. Okay, now that I've pulled out a complete mess from the center of the skein, I'm just gonna sit back and work in silence. Trying to figure out what I'm doing with Bulbasaur. Since I'm probably gonna wind up speeding it up anyway, I'm gonna be working in silence so as not to suddenly have an issue with communication. Actually, I'm gonna have to double check my facts to make sure I've got it right. Which means I need to boot up my 3DS so that I can look at Bulbasaur from all sides. So, hold the phone. Alright, looking at this picture, Bulbasaur's bulb has 6 sections. So whatever stitch number I get, I'm going to have it as a multiple of 6. So now that you know that, I can cast on and continue knitting. I might not show the bulb because I need to, not in progress I mean, because I need to figure it out. But I'll definitely tell you what I did in order to achieve it. There. And isn't this just the cutest little bulb ever? Yeah, it turned out pretty good. So now, I'm just gonna stuff it and sew it, and get back to you. There. Yep, I stuffed it lightly, stitched it on good and firm, and now he's actually looking like a Bulbasaur. He's just missing a couple things. He is missing his eyes, his little mouth, and his green spots. And I found this one, I thought, oh, this is very, very appropriate considering it's Bulbasaur. Dark leaf. So, yeah. Next time you see him, he will have all of those in. Oh, and by the way, this, I might use it to seal up the top, because that's still open. But I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that. That's probably an optional step. And here's Bulbasaur, all finished. Actually, he turned out pretty well. The only change that I had to make in the transition from test knit to the written pattern was I arranged for the legs to be a bit narrower, because they are kind of chubby. And I got stubby legs, a bit too wide. And for those making a Bulbasaur themselves, they will definitely want to do the embroidery of the dark green patches before they attach the bulb. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, maybe you could check out some of the other stuff that I have going on my channel. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you... That was probably just my imagination.